Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range. So, this is our first ever Patreon Q&A where we respond to questions placed on our Patreon page by our patrons. So, let's get right to it. First one from Jeremy. How is the Enfield P14 safety switch supposed to work?
Well, it's one of your favourites, so...
Yeah. Forward to fire. Back is safe and locks the bolt. There's no intermediate position. It's not like a Mauser with a 3-position safety. It's an on-off. It works exactly like an SMLE or number 4 safety. It's just on the other side. Simples. Okay, Jasper asks, can you explain the Swiss process of firearms ownership from I want that rifle or handgun to bringing it home to obtaining ammo and finally taking it somewhere to shoot it? Also, are there any variances between cantons or municipalities? So, depends on what the rifle or handgun is, and depends on what your residency status is. Now, let's just take the easy case of someone who's got permanent residency, the Swiss equivalent of a green card, or is a citizen. If it's a Swiss bolt-action rifle or a gun allowed for hunting that isn't a lever or a pump or a semi, it's basically if you've got a firearms acquisition permit that's not older than 2 years, or you've got a criminal record declaration that's not older than 3 months, or a valid hunting permit, or a European firearms permit that's not older than 5 years, you can just go and buy it and walk out with it. Easy. Most of the rest needs an acquisition permit. And in principle it works a bit like the American instant background check, except it's far from instant.
But it's not too bad.
It's not too bad.
Yeah. But there's definitely no instance of, I want that, here's my money, and I'm gone.
Now, unlike, say, a lot of other countries where when you apply for a permit, you have to say exactly what the gun is that you want to buy, here you can just say, I want to buy 1 gun, or 2 guns, or 3 guns, or more, and apply for the permit. And all you need for that is a clean criminal record declaration. There is, at the moment, still no requirement to show good need or be a member of a club.
Yeah, the form actually says, please state any other reason for acquiring this firearm apart from collecting or shooting. So it's hunting. So it's assumed that you will need or can make use of this firearm.
Yeah. On the timeline, we're in Canton Bern. Let's say you're starting the process with no paperwork at all. You pay 20 francs, which is about $20 at the moment, to get a criminal record declaration. You pop that in the post, and within about 2 days, you get your criminal record declaration delivered to your home.
You can also apply directly at the post office for it.
Doesn't speed it up though.
No.
Well, basically you're talking 2 days for that, and then you take your filled out request form to the municipality, and there's a checklist they have to do on the back, and this is a Bern specific thing, which basically says that they've got no reason to believe that you're a bad person in a way that wouldn't be visible from a criminal background check. And they also have to phone up the Child Protection Services to check that you're not bound over, and then they send it to the police and it comes back, and the timeline at the moment is a little under 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now there are variations from canton to canton. Some cantons you have to, it's the municipality that issues the permit, others it's the police, some you send it directly to the police. Varies quite a lot. Basically it's a federal law which is applied cantonally, and then some cantons make the municipalities deal with it.
I think the only major exception is Geneva at the moment, where they limit you can only request a permit for 1 firearm at a time.
You can request 3 permits at a go for 3 firearms, but yeah, there's Geneva and I think Vaud as well. Mm-hmm. There's a certain tendency, and I think it's largely just the fact that they can charge 50 francs a go. There's no obligation under the law that they issue a permit for 3 guns. but Burn will do it on request. And the interesting thing is that it's 3 guns from the same person or dealer. So if you want to buy 3 things from 3 different dealers, it's 3 permits.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Anything beyond that gets complicated, really. In fact, this links into another question that's further down. We'll skip forward to that. Which is, how long were you a resident of Switzerland before you can own a firearm? Well, when I moved to Switzerland, I still had a valid Dutch firearms permit, so I applied straight away. In fact, I brought 6, I think, with me from Holland, imported them here, and I had another permit that I then filled at a gun shop up near Zurich. Basically, before you've got permanent residency here, you've got to prove that you can own firearms in your country of residence, and there's a bit of an open question. They seem to be being a little stricter about that, but I don't really want to comment on that until we've got clarity on it.
And for me, well, it was the same situation. I already had a valid firearms license when I moved here, so that was valid until that expired, and then I got, in my case, permission from my home country that I was a reasonable person and could apply for a firearms license with that.
I used to apply for British visitors firearms permits for the same purpose. That worked. So, next question. From Sean. Do Swiss hunters use service rifles for taking game, and if so, service ammunition? No and no. Used to be a lot of converted service rifles. You see a lot of cut down K11s, G11s, K31s turned into sporting rifles, but never with service ammunition. Never.
No, they did have they had hunting rounds based on them.
Yep.
But never the service ammunition.
The Swiss generally follow the European tendency of great big, flat flying
big
cartridges,
slug. Yeah.
Big, like 7mm Remington Magnum, and there's a whole raft of German and Austrian hunting cartridges that are very popular here, that are often unheard of in the States. But they tend to think of the 7.5 as being a bit of a rainbow for hunting purposes, even though you're not allowed to take deer over, I think it's 120 metres in Canton Bern. So really you're not talking about much drop anyway, but they like these flat flying 7mm. Next one, Cody says, how did 2 Brits end up in Switzerland? It's the first one. Cody's actually asked quite a few questions, and we'll try and answer them all here. How did we end up in Switzerland? Well, I first came here in about 2001, I think it was, for some pistol shooting. Proper pistol shooting, as opposed to the air guns and black powder revolvers that we were doing in the UK at the time. And I stepped off the plane and was like, oh, the trains are on time. And there's not that much graffiti and stuff's generally functioning. This is great, I want to move here. It took rather a while. It took a little 8-year sojourn in Holland as an intermediate step. But it was kind of, from the moment I stepped off that plane back then, it was kind of the life goal, really. And it's been a success, really. Yours is a little bit more complicated, though.
Oh yeah, I'll do the relevant bit. Basically, I visited Switzerland before, and then this bloke here kept on saying, "Come on, there's a shooting competition twice a year. You've got to come down and do it, see it." And so finally, went to see what it was about, and he was right. Fantastic. Always had a bit of Switzerland in my heart. And then when it was starting to get a bit bored in Holland, started looking around for jobs, and as fate would have it, the best offer came from Switzerland. So yeah, hopped in the car with the family, and here we are, and never regretted it.
Oh yeah, a bit of information that's missing. We worked for the same employer in Holland by sheer chance.
Yeah. So you see the I think it's mentioned in the
FAQ.
FAQ that we crossed paths in a gun shop.
Yeah, as you do.
As you do. And the rest is history.
Okay, continuing down Cody's list here. What is your Grail gun of the moment? I'll let you answer this one first.
Well, the Grail gun of the moment would have to be, because I'm awkward, a German Jaeger needle rifle, model of 1865. It's not a Grail in that you can't find them, they're just a ridiculous amount of money.
My Grail gun of the moment is a bit similar, although finding them is a bit trickier. It's ideally a real, but I'll settle for a down-converted fake. Model 1900, Swiss Model 1900 short rifle for a price I'm prepared to pay for it.
That's it.
They do come up. The down conversions come up very occasionally, and when they do, for prices that I'm probably prepared to pay. The real ones generally go for, you want how much now? So
yeah, basically there's nothing really you cannot get directly or import in Switzerland. So that's not the issue, it's finding them.
The next one's linked actually. It was a Cody again. It's what firearm is unobtainable or nearly so in Switzerland and that you wish you could get your hands on?
That's it.
Yeah, basically. And this falls into the same sort of thing.
The trouble is the collector market is very specific here. So if you don't fall into that category, there's not much market for anything else, so you can't find it.
I mean, if you really, really want something and you're willing to pay through the nose, you can get stuff imported.
Yeah.
It has to be import marked now, which is a real pest, but you can. You can. It's harder to get stuff out of the States in as one-offs, but you've just got to find an exporter who's prepared to do it, and then you just got to accept you've got to pay for it.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a while back. There was one or two Johnson 1941s that came up. Thought, oh, that'd be nice, and then looked at the price. No. Right, next, Ian. Not Gun Jesus Ian, another Ian. It seems like Switzerland is very much oriented around 300-metre precision rifle shooting. Are there many other competition types around outside of that formula? If so, do you shoot in any of them? Well, the other half of the main Swiss competition programme is 25 and 50-metre pistol. It's a bit ISSF precision and also based around the obligatory 25-metre programme and Feldschießen 25-metre programme that are part of the sort of national defence structure. At 50 metres it tends to be bullseye shooting either with Swiss service pistols or sport pistols, like my Hammerly, and free pistols are starting to be allowed more. And depending on what you shoot, there's different numbers of points you need to shoot for each medal, but I'm pretty sure that they're really not balanced at all, because on a bad day I could quite easily not make a medal score at 50 metres with my SIG P210, but it would have to be a really, really, really hellishly bad day not to do it with my sport pistol. Otherwise, small disciplines.
Yeah, aside from that, there's a very, very small black powder community for those
IPSC.
disciplines. There's IPSC, which again is relatively small, and then it's down to private clubs and their own internal competitions.
There's a certain amount of small bore 50-metre rifle.
Yeah, that's true.
As well. In fact, there's a 50-metre small bore range in this valley here, along with 300-metre ranges. It's not a very big valley. Okay. Ian again. Also, since you're British and so am I, if you had to move back to the UK with our more restrictive gun laws, what firearms would you choose to collect here? What kind of competitive shooting in the UK takes your fancy? Well, I try and take back, heaven forbid that this would happen, touch wood, everything I could. So I've got a number of revolvers and pistols that I could probably squeeze in on Section 7. In fact, some I definitely could squeeze in on one of the two Section 7s. Everything chambered for 7.5 by 53.5 GP90 I could have off ticket in the UK, so that would all come back and immediately jump in value massively. And all the bolt action rifles I'd bring back. as for shooting disciplines, I'll probably just go back to doing what I was doing before. I did a lot of gallery rifle, which, for those who don't know, is basically pistol shooting disciplines with Winchester lever actions, little pistol caliber bolt action rifles, 22 semi-auto 22s and things like that. I'd probably do long barreled pistol for want of anything better. And another thing that I did do in the UK, and I did go back to the UK for occasionally, is practical shotgun. So IPSC style practical shotgun and civilian service rifle, which is not really practical because it's based around static firing points, but there's a bit of breaking a sweat running up and down.
Yeah, that's one thing that's totally absent, is any form of shotgun
Very little
shooting here.
dynamic shotgun. There's actually not that much clay pigeon either.
No.
The clay pigeon shooting seems to be largely based around what you have to do for a hunting permit. So it's quite limited and it's quite expensive. It's not like in the UK where the clay pigeon shooting all over the place because the licensing of shotguns is easier than other firearms. Here it's like if you buy a shotgun without a permit, you just as we described.
There's
earlier.
no shortage of them in the shops, but I don't know what people do with them.
Yeah, a lot of very short-barreled ones as well. What the minimum length allowed for hunting. So, Pete asks, will you two possibly do a show featuring a European drilling?
Highly unlikely.
Yeah. There maybe sometime just out of interest. They're really a hunting-only thing. We're target shooters and collectors of interesting military firearms, and drillings are a hunting-only issue. Because basically the problem with a drilling is that you've got two very dissimilar barrels soldered together. So let's say you've got a rifle barrel up the top and a shotgun barrel at the bottom. Basically, for those who don't know, a drilling is basically a over and under double barrel shotgun, except one of them's a rifle barrel. Now, or two, or one of them. Sometimes you get 3-barrel drillings. Let's just take a 2-barrel drilling, for instance. So you've got a rifle barrel and a shotgun barrel underneath it. The problem is that you fire a couple of rounds through the rifle barrel, and you've not fired anything through the shotgun barrel. You've got thermal expansion of the rifle barrel. And if you remember the old bimetallic strip experiment from school science classes, you droop. So as they heat, the point of impact walks down massively. And on our range, there's quite a few hunters who zero at 50 meters. And one of them had a drilling, I think it was a 222 Remington over a 12 bore. And he was having a hell of a time zeroing his scope on it because every 2 shots or so, he had to stop. He was getting sort of brewer's droop on it. And so he was having to let it cool off. And it doesn't really matter for hunting because in principle you're only going to fire 1, maybe 2 shots at most. So it's not so much of an issue. But for target shooting, they're just a horror. So, unfortunately, that one is probably a no.
So out of our league, that one.
Yeah. And I think that is about it for this one. So, to our patrons, thank you very, very much for your support. It is much appreciated and is helping to improve the channel, I hope. And please consider supporting us. Please consider becoming a patron, but if you don't want to, that's absolutely fine, of course. Just please like and subscribe and share our videos. And,
keep those questions coming. If you have more,
ask. We'll start a new thread so that we don't get them mixed up. So, thank you very much. Bye.
Cheers.